It's just loading. Welcome back, Nickel City Mafia, to another edition of Red, White, and Ruthless. We have been away for a couple of weeks as content right now is kind of at a standstill, but right now we are starting training camp, and I can't be more excited for the start of training camp. Fall is in the air. You can feel it. You know, you're going to have a lot of content coming up throughout the week on not only Nickel City Mafia, but so many other Buffalo Bills content creators are going to create content, and we're going to talk about training camp. We'll talk about many other things throughout the off season as we have just a few more weeks before the preseason begins, as well as the NFL 2024 season kicking off in September. And like I said, I'm excited. Football is officially back. This is the first week that we can say football is back, as the guys are going to be practicing, and they will be in St. John Fisher later on this week. Joining me today is Sean Kula of Red, White, and Bills. Sean, how you doing today?
I'm excited, baby. Ready to talk football officially because training camp is about to begin.
Well, the rookies have reported for training camp. That started a couple of days ago, and we have a ton of topics that we're going to talk about. Offseason changes that will make or break the Buffalo Bills in 2024. The drought combos, we'll talk about that later in the show. But which combination of players, and this is not just like one player, but this is a combination of players that were the greatest during the drought. Now, this could be a team of like Bledsoe and Eric Moulds, or it could be a combination of players such as a defensive line that you liked or a offensive line that you thought was really good. Another segment that we will have is make or break bubble players who need a fast start to training camp. We're going to have a friendly bet coming up where we will talk about when the first scrum of training camp will begin, as it always does throughout the offseason. You see players getting heated, and we'll talk about that, when it will happen, and we'll have a bet on the date that it'll happen, as well as who we think will be involved in that fight. Sean will also be breaking down a player on his player analysis, as well as I will have one myself. Sean picked the veteran player. I'm picking the rookie that we're going to talk about. The last segment that we will have is going to be, can Mike Edwards, Cole Bishop, and Taylor Rapp fill the position left behind by two All-Pros in Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer? We'll talk about all this right after we hit our intro and right after we get to the comments. Stay tuned. Get your popcorn ready. We are officially back, and I can't be more excited, Sean. I'm telling you, I love this time of the year because it is kind of one of those times where we don't have to be as serious as we normally do, because we have training camp coming up, and we get to talk to so many different fans that are out here in the chat as well. And man, I've missed this so much, just talking about Buffalo Bills football. And I want to say hello to the people in the chat, Bills Fan CA, Trek Reviewer. We see you in the chat here. We will get to your comments in just a minute. But man, like I mentioned, football is back, and for another year, starting off at St. John Fisher. And Sean, I want to get to the first thing that I thought of when it came to doing these topics, man. I always think about when and where will the day be that the first scrum of training camp will happen. And it's always that, like I said, we talk about the good things, we talk about the bad things. I want to get into a little bit of the heated side of things. As you know, training camp can be heated. You're going up against some of your teammates, some of your good friends, and sometimes it's not necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just two players that are hot at the position. You have guys like before Stephon Diggs going up against Tre'Davious White, two All-Pros that are very good at their positions. And those guys are going up against each other, and you're going to get tangled up. Sometimes the player doesn't like it, and then they start a fight. So, Sean, I want to get into this and do a friendly bet before we start the show. When do you think on the date calendar, the first official scrum, that we'll call it, will happen for training camp in 2024 for the Buffalo Bills?
Well, first, shout out to the chat. You guys are awesome. Thank you for tuning in. I don't know about the exact day, but I'm going to say probably within in the second week. And Mike kind of beat me to it, but I was going to say either Kyer Elam and a receiver, probably I would say Keon Coleman, though, or Josh Allen and some defensive linemen. If I have to pick one or the other, I'll pick whoever you don't want to pick if you have someone different. But those are my culprits that I would say because, again, Elam gets physical and he's a tough player. He can get on people's nerves and, he's motivated. So I can definitely see that. And then, I feel like Josh does it every year, feels like they're not, amped up enough. So he'll get in someone's face. So I can see that happening. He won't actually be involved in the fight, but, he'll instigate it.
I can see him instigating it. So you're saying right around, let's say the 7th of August, before the 7th of August, is that where you're saying?
Yeah, like at the start of the second week to like the middle of the second week, probably. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to give you until the 10th of August. Okay, so before the 10th is what you're saying. I'm going to say after the 10th because you know what happens. The first week usually happens, and it's media day where you talk to the players and everything, and not a lot of the veteran players necessarily are out there practicing. Usually you see the second, third, fourth team out there. But it starts to ramp up as it gets closer to cut time. And cut time is it's actually later this year because I believe there's only one cut this year instead of having where we go from the 90 players to 80 players to 75 down to the final 53-man roster. There's only one cut this year, and that's after the third preseason game. So I believe it's going to be even later. I think it's going to be towards the time when the Bills are going to be going into training camp with the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think it will happen before the Steelers joint practice that we will have. I think it's going to involve an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman. Connor McGovern versus Ed Oliver is my prediction, with Josh Allen getting involved in the scrum, but being pulled from the pile quickly by his fellow running back in James Cook. And that's who I believe will start that. Okay. Let's get into the comments real quick. That was our friendly bet that we were having on the show. But I do want to get to the chat. We have a ton of people that came in. Trek Reviewer, Nickel City Mafia as well. Weston, Brewster coming in as well. And Bills fan CA. I see you guys. Hey, yo. How you guys doing? Weston coming in, barbecue, as well as Bills fan CA saying, what's up, beautiful men. Trek Reviewer always coming into the comments with his little bit of trash talk that he has for Cam Lewis on here. Say Bills fan CA coming back saying Cam Lewis dialed in. Weston coming in saying, there's my my favorite dude, Sean. I apologize. He is good looking. Don't get me wrong. He's got the beard blowing out.
Mike's been saying that a lot.
Yeah. Trek Reviewer, where you been, man? We've missed you so much this offseason. He's getting the house ready so he can move. Bills fan CA saying Kyer Elam and Curtis Samuel. It will happen day one. I think it's going to be a little too early for that. Gable Stevenson, as well as an offensive lineman, I can see that happening as well. Well, Sean, let's get into our first topic that we're going to talk about, and we're going to get into the start of training camp to begin. I love talking about training camp, like I mentioned, and let's talk about some of the offseason changes that we have to our coaching staff, and let's talk about how these changes will make or break the Bills in 2024. And let's talk about a couple of positions that you believe are going to be super important because we've seen some people that have left the Buffalo Bills, and we've seen some upgrades that we've made. First of all, we don't really know the situation that's going to happen with the defensive coordinator position. We assume it's going to be Sean McDermott calling the plays again, but we've had some upgrades a little bit. Officially, defensive coordinator position has turned over to Bobby Babish, but we don't know if it's going to be him calling the plays or if it's going to be Sean McDermott. So let's talk about the offseason changes that have happened that will make or break the Bills this season. And I know there's a couple that you want to talk about first, so I'll let you begin.
Yeah, well, there's the obvious ones with, I mean, I'm still going to say we're having a new offensive coordinator because he's got to reinvent his own plays and methods. And he did, just like I've said many times, the playbooks that, Daboll had and Dorsey had, they're all basically the same, but you can do different line people up differently, do different run blocking schemes within it. But even Brady said, like 90% of the plays that people call might have been a different percentage, but majority of plays in the NFL, everybody runs them. So like everyone says, oh, Dorsey sucks at being an offensive coordinator, but he's going to run the same plays that Dorsey did because that's basically what the NFL is. You just run the same certain plays and then you put your spin on them. So he has to, figure out what works best for our team, our linemen, our receivers, our quarterback, our tight end. Still take from Daboll, still take from Dorsey, because in all reality, the offensive coordinator should be building an offense on what your quarterback does best mainly, because if your quarterback isn't doing well, then your team's not going to be good. So you think of your quarterback first, what his strengths are, what he excels in. Then you look at what are my wide receivers are good at, what are my tight ends good at, what are my running backs good at, and you go from there. So that's big. Again, I don't think he's a bad offensive coordinator, but we don't know what he is yet. He didn't last long in Carolina, and you could say, they had a bad team, and then he took over for Dorsey, and yeah, we did well, winning football games, but a lot of Allen's, yards and attempts and things went down, even though his touchdown to intercept turnover ratio was better. There's still changes that we're like, is that really going to be who we are? And is it going to work long term?
Right.
So a lot of us, I just feel like it's an expectation people are setting for him that he's going to be automatically amazing because Josh Allen's great, but you still got to let him be himself. And, yeah, he's failed before and he might fail again in the first year.
Right.
But we can't just automatically assume that he's going to be an elite offensive coordinator. So that's going to be a big thing. Again, one thing the Chiefs have, I bring up the Chiefs because our friends are here. Even though Andy Reid isn't the offensive coordinator technically, he's always in charge of the plays. He's always the overseer. So they've had the same consistent offense the whole entire time Patrick Mahomes is there. They've had the same defensive coordinator the entire time Patrick Mahomes is there. We don't. We're always switching coordinators. We're switching, position coaches, which most people do. But we started switching when we were in a Super Bowl window. So we lost our wide receivers coach, defensive line coach, a defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator, 2 offensive coordinators. So it's a lot of change that everybody has to buy into and fit with. And then, of course, defensive coordinator, McDermott is probably going to be calling the plays, but now Babish is responsible for the scheme and other things within that parameter of being a defensive coordinator, except for calling the plays during the game. I'm sure they'll refer to each other, but the planning is going to be on Babish. McDermott's going to take a step back. McDermott's going to be calling it during the game. Maybe he'll hand it over to him, but they're going to be in cahoots, just like it's always been. So again, it's still new life, change is good, but you got to give them a chance before to be fair, before we say they're great or they're bad. I can't, I'm unbiased as possible. I'm excited for them both, but I can't sit here and say everything's going to be perfect year one for both of them. But those are 2 of my thoughts.
Yeah, for me, I think the biggest change that's going to happen is adding a rules analyst in John Perry. I think that's going to be a huge move that we will see. Number one, because McDermott has struggled with it, the times when he should or should not use a challenge in games. And just having somebody that has the experience and understands the game from an officiating perspective, somebody that was in the NFL for so many years doing it and can lead the charge as to telling Sean, hey, listen, this is the time when you should do it. This is the time when you need to take a timeout. This is the time when you should slow the game down a little bit. That'll help him so much. And you look at the amount of challenges that he's won versus lost, it's atrocious. I'm sorry to say that to everybody. I mean, I love McDermott, I'm not going to lie, but one of the things that I think he struggles with is number one, clock management during games. Number two, when to and when not to challenge. Those are two things he really struggles with. And this is going to be one of the things that's going to help Sean to continue to be a Buffalo Bills head coach. And I think that this is the move not only that Sean recognizes as to where the 2023 season really went downhill, but also where the Super Bowl window that we were in and how to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, how to beat teams like the Houston Texans that we struggled with, where we were up in those games. We were playing at an elite level in the first half of the Houston game where Josh Allen looked amazing. And then all of a sudden we struggled in the second half and we became such a flat team. And this is how you're going to beat the elite teams, is by having a coaching staff that you can go turn to and not put the pressure on yourself so much as to being the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, special teams all over the place. And Sean needs to understand that adding the pressure to himself is not good, because he has to be a leader of all 53 men. He has to be there for each and every one of them. He can't be going to one group and not putting the focus on the other groups.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. To add to another thing that he does bad, that's not a pile on McDermott show, but you mentioned two things. So also his decision-making on whether to go for it or not to go for it, that goes into the challenge or not challenge. So I think it'll take him thinking about it out of it. And I mean, ultimately he'll make the decision, because Perry can just be like, yeah, you should challenge that. And he won't, but he won't have to put the main thought into and get all flustered and worried about, oh, I should do this or I shouldn't do this. So I really like that. I think it can really help. And because sometimes it just takes a play or two to win a game. And, that could be a major part of it. So yeah, I agree with you there.
And analytics. I mean, you understand the way that the game has changed in the last 15, 20 years. Analytics are super important to the game. And having somebody like John Perry up in the booth saying, hey, listen, understand this. We're at 4th and 2. Odds of making this are, let's say, 40%, to make that. Josh Allen struggles with this on this play. Hey, let's do this. Let's change it up. Let's go here. Let's do this. And let's get you in the right situation to win the game. And understanding how the game works in terms of the field position as well. Maybe Sean decides that, okay, we're on our own 48-yard line. And he's thinking, okay, let's go for it. And he says, hey, listen, John Perry says this, let's not go for it in this situation, because Patrick Mahomes, when he's at his own 2-yard line, he struggles with X, Y, and Z to be able to, roll out to his right, and you might have an opportunity to get a safety in that situation. Mm-hmm. So I'm just putting this together on the fly, guys. I'm not saying that Patrick Mahomes struggles with this or anything, but I'm just giving you examples of what you might see out there. Mm-hmm. So that very well could happen, and it could help us win games in the future. But another area, I mean, I think adding a new special teams, I'm sorry, not special teams, but secondary coach in, I'm going to draw a blank on his name now. But adding him to the mix, that is important, because that's going to allow us to play more physical. And I think for sure that Christian Benford is going to have a bigger year than you really expect. I know, guys, Sean and Mike, you guys think that Kyer Elam is the answer, but I think that Christian Benford is going to take a step in the right direction as being the number 2 cornerback, and it's only going to help him and Rasul Douglas, Rasul Douglas played amazing for us last season when we really needed it, and we were struggling. We had nobody on our team that we could be, rely on pretty much after Tre'Davious White went down, and he came into the Bills with so much expectations on him, and praise him for coming in there. And I think it was like his third week in Buffalo. He had to play the whole entire game because we had nobody else out there that could play.
Right.
And he came in and he did his job. That's what I have to say about him. And he's in a contract year. He's going to have to play some pretty good football coming up, but I think he's going to meet expectations. And I think you're going to see, number one, Rasul Douglas playing more aggressive and getting a lot of interceptions this year. But I think that that'll also help with when you have a lockdown cornerback in Rasul Douglas. Christian Benford is going to get tested a lot, and mark my words, he's going to come up with some big plays as well. But it could be a little bit of a rotation where Kaiir Elam gets into the mix as well.
That'll be good.
Don't be surprised on that, guys. But let's get into our next topic, Sean, that we're going to talk about, which is going to be now we're going to talk about make or break players. As we've talked about the coaching staff, let's get into make or break players that need to come into training camp with high expectations and have a fast start to training camp. And there are some guys that are on the bubble watch right now. And we mentioned Kaiir Elam. We talked to him like he's blue in the face. We've always been that Kaiir Elam. He needs to step up. High expectations for him as he's coming into training camp, and I wish him all the best. But let's talk about some other players that are on that bubble window right now. Who needs to step up in terms of making this roster? Well, we might have lost Sean's connection real quick. He might be having a little bit of an issue with his service there, but I will continue the show on, guys, as we go in. Sean is here. I do apologize. I'm going to take that one out. Are you there, Sean?
Yeah, I don't know. It just all of a sudden shut off.
No worries. So as I was mentioning, the make or breaks that we will have in here, who needs to step up and play a good role in the first couple of weeks of training camp and show the coaching staff that they can make the 53-man roster?
Well, we got some, if we're talking about people that might be cut, there's some interesting battles with wide receiver, guys like Hamler, depending on how many wide receivers they keep, guys like Hamler and Shavers and Shorter and Claypool are going to be battling for the last spot or two. And then, again, you got the defensive end position, Casey Toohill, guys like Kingsley Jonathan fighting for a spot, depending on how many they keep. So, basically all those guys, they're going to have to come in and really show something because they either can easily make the team and easily not make the team. They all got to prove something. Everyone else, it seems like in those spots, they're kind of set. But I think those are the most interesting.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And Trek Reviewer actually brought up a really good point here that he's mentioning. He says Sam Martin. And yeah, I agree with that. His hang time wasn't the best last season. That's the situation that we were in. We weren't in our territory very often. And Sam Martin had some hang time issues just because we were pretty much on our opponent's side of the field and he happened to kick from the 40-yard line or in those situations and not really having the net yardage that you really want. But also the injuries that he had throughout the 2023 season, that plays an effect, as well as having a guy in a rookie, Jake Browning, that's coming in to potentially replace him. He has to show up and make sure that, number one, he is doing a good job in terms of punting, but also in the holding position. I think that there could be a very good battle coming up for the punter position because Tyler Bass struggled as well. I'm going to say that in 2023. He didn't have his best season. And could that be because of Bass, or could it be because the holds were not correct? Now, I'm speculating into this. I'm not saying that Sam Martin is a bad player whatsoever. I'm just speculating here and saying it could very well be a situation where Sam Martin isn't holding it correctly for Tyler Bass, and that could be the situation that's happening there. And I've seen it before. And look at Corey Bojorquez when he played for the Bills. He was a left-handed punter. And when it came down to Bass as well as Stephen Hauschka towards the end when he was with Buffalo, both of them struggled so much. And I believe for sure that it was because of the holder and how he was holding the ball and the way that he was tilting the ball and causing it to some misses from the kicker position. So you could have a new kicker, a new punter in Buffalo come 2024 with some new changes. But other positions, I think, Sean, I'm going to go with the offensive line group. There's some battles there as well. Who's going to be the swing tackle for Buffalo? Lyle Collins is in a battle right now. You add in Grable as well for the swing tackle position. Is he going to make the roster, or do the Bills decide that they're going to try and put him on the practice squad and make him vulnerable to being picked up from another team? Look at the defensive line group. You have a ton of guys in the defensive line group in Von Miller being out there as well. Von needs to have a good start to training camp, because if he doesn't, you have an opportunity to cut him and save $8 million. I'm sorry, not cut him, but trade him and save $8 million on the salary cap in 2024. While that's speculation, do the Bills decide to do that? You've seen Stephon Diggs be cut and let go and traded. And I do say cut, but I'm saying what cut from the team is what I mean, and traded. So the Bills could decide that they want to move on from some of the veteran high-end contracts that they have, and that's an opportunity for us to go after some other players as well to upgrade the roster. So let's go into our third topic, Sean, that we're going to talk about here. And we've mentioned the offseason changes that we've had. We've also mentioned the friendly bet that we've had that we believe is going to happen and make or break players. But we also have one other thing that we need to talk about before we get into training camp, which is going to be, I call it shoe filler. And now this might be a little bit of a situation where people think that, oh, we're just filling time in here. But this is really something that we have to think about. And I did a show a couple days ago where I did a player analysis on Cole Bishop. And I did another one on Mike Edwards before as well, as these are two players that are coming to the Buffalo Bills. And one of the things I talked about is, are these guys going to be able to fill the position in order to take over from two legends that have played for the Buffalo Bills in Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde? And the holes that the shoes that they have to fill are so significant. Sean, I don't know if you know this, but the safety position for the Buffalo Bills has been such a good tradition that we've had. So many greats that have played for the Bills. Jarris Byrd, George Wilson. You add in Aaron Williams, some of the guys that, I think about from the drought years. So many good safeties that we've had. Now it's on Mike Edwards, Taylor Rapp, Cole Bishop to carry on that tradition. How hard is this for guys like Mike Edwards and Bishop and Rapp to do? Do you think that they're going to be able to keep the expectations going?
I mean, yeah, it's especially with like Rapp and Edwards. They both started on Super Bowl rosters and played in big games and big moments and made big plays. So I think it's really overstated about that we lost Poyer and Hyde and Tre'Davious White, because again, we all saw it the last couple of years. Poyer did make a few more plays than Hyde did, but these guys were, they're fighting with all the energy they had left to try to leave it all out there. So bringing in I love to bring in the baseball analogies, but when you're a team in baseball where you're rebuilding, you get rid of good players to get draft prospects and people in the other farm systems. You give them a shot, they build up and they become really good, and you get a lot of money's worth out of your old veterans. And obviously baseball and football are different, but as good, veteran leadership that Poyer and Hyde were, still got to remember, you still got two veteran defensive backs that are leaders on your team still with Teron Johnson and Rasul Douglas. So sure, you lost a little bit of veteran leadership. You still got some. Poyer and Hyde and Poyer, yeah, they were great for Buffalo. Wish they got a ring, but just because they're gone doesn't mean the world stops and they're not going to be great and the team's not going to be good on defense anymore. Because what if so say for example, the Jets, they had Revis still, and then they got rid of him and they drafted Sauce Gardner. Look how that turns out. I'm not saying Cole Bishop's going to be the equivalent at safety to Sauce Gardner as a corner, but there's nothing wrong with bringing in young, physical, great talent in the building, replacing old, washed up, good veteran leadership. Because even if Hyde wants to come back, I don't even want him to come back. I love him on the end on the note he left on. He just it could just get worse. He's not going to be better. If Poyer and Hyde were still here, they wouldn't be better than they were before. They just continue to decline. So nothing wrong with bringing in a guy like Cole Bishop. And again, I don't know who's going to start or anything, but between those three, they're going to play a lot. And again, you got they're still veterans and they're still leaders. They might not be captains, but again, Rapp and Edwards, they're veterans and they played in big moments in the biggest stage where most of our players haven't. So I don't think it's just a talking point where people like to downplay. Oh yeah, Buffalo's not going to be good because they lost defensive players. But if you look around the NFL, everybody lost people.
Right.
Not one team is the same. And even look at Miami, our rivals in the East. They lost a ton of players on defense too.
Yeah.
They lost their best defensive tackle. They lost one of their safeties that won them a game or two last year, Deshaun Elliott. They lost Xavier Howard. They lost their entire linebacking core, and their two starting edge rushers are both starting out on the PUP list. So
they also lost Shaq Barrett in the situation.
Well, he wasn't on the team last year. I'm just saying, they lost starters from the year before, and nobody brings that up. They just say, "Oh yeah, the Dolphins are going to be the best team in the world. The Jets are going to be the best team in the world." People, you lose people, and you replace them with other people that you think can do a good job. And I'm confident that these guys can do a good job. Are they going to come right off the bat and be Poyer and Hyde from 4 years ago? Maybe not. But even a guy like Cole Bishop, you might not see it this year, but if he gets the playing time this year, next year, he could be better than Poyer and Hyde ever were. And it's just about getting the playing time. And that's goes back into if Epinesa got adequate playing time from year one, he could have been top 10 pass rusher in NFL by now. We don't know. But he never got the proper playing time. Then he get injured, and then he doesn't get to play that much. Then he has to lose 50 pounds, gain 20 pounds back, lose 60 pounds. So it's all about how you utilize these people. And I think they could be good. But, again, got to see it on the field.
That's very true, Sean. I mean, it comes down to, number one, and this is the biggest thing, a new generation playing for the Buffalo Bills. And I think that Bills fan CA here had a very good comment here. Number one, saying 2 years ago, Micah Hyde played in 2 games after the neck injury. We lost him for the last few seasons, and we were okay. Also saying that it's a much more athletic Cole Bishop and Mike Edwards, and both of them have experience. Number one, in my opinion, I think that this group is going to come in. They're going to have high expectations on them. But I think the Bills are going to rely on the veteran leaders out there in Edwards and Rapp. I think free safety is going to be Rapp. I think that Mike Edwards will play the strong safety position. But don't rule out Cole Bishop, because I'm telling you right now, he is not going to be on the sidelines for very long. He's a very good tackler. He's very good in terms of being around the football, making big plays. And if you haven't already, go over to Go Bills Podcast. Check out the video I just created with where I talk about the player analysis. It's a 20-minute video. It won't take you that long to watch. But the player analysis that you're going to see is the big plays that he has in him. He's 6'2", big, strong, athletic guy. And what he's going to bring to the table is being able to cover man coverage in terms of the tight end position. He's played with Dalton Kincaid in college, but he's also going to be a guy that's going to make sure tackles. And that's where I love about him. And I think that this group of guys is going to be a veteran leadership in the beginning, but Bishop will be on the sidelines chomping at the bit to get into games, and Sean McDermott's going to get him ready. And that's the one thing I will add to this is McDermott brings the best out of the defensive back room. I don't know what it is, but he gets guys that are pretty much about to be buried in their grave in the NFL and resurrects them, brings them back, and throws them in the pit where the Bills Stadium is across the street, throwing them in the pit and says, here you go, guys. You're going to be in the NFL. You're going to be the starting safety for the Buffalo Bills. And all of a sudden, holy crap, they're the best players in the world at their position. And I don't know how he does it, but, I'm glad that he's on our team. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it's exciting because it's people just think that other people can't step up when someone, leaves a position, and that's an awesome opportunity for people. So Cole Bishop and Mike Edwards and Taylor Rapp can be like, oh man, I don't know if I can replace Hyde and Poyer. They're so great. Right. But if they go in there and decide I'm going to be myself and dominate this position, it's not going to matter. And just like people were crying about losing Tremaine Edmonds, which I was thinking the Lord above that we finally got rid of him. Wish we got rid of him the year prior where we could have got something for him instead of paying him a 5th year, wasting the money, getting nothing out of him, and then, letting him walk. Because they knew they weren't going to sign him. They knew he was going to demand a big contract, and they weren't going to pay it.
I don't think they expected that contract. I'm going to be honest with you. I think they were expecting.
Now the market's the market for people. They don't care if they're worth it. They just say, oh, the market's the market. We'll pay him the most money. And they knew he wasn't part of the future. And we had Bernard in Edmonds' 4th year. We could have traded Edmonds, got probably got a 1st-round pick for him, if I'm being honest, or a second, because he's young and because he had empty calorie stats. And then you could have had Bernard play a whole year early, and he would have been even who knows where he would have been last year. But yeah, it's all about stepping up when opportunity rises. And like Mike was saying, we're more athletic, we're more physical, we're more young now, and still got veterans in the defensive back room. So let's do it.
That's very true, Sean. I can't say it any better than what you just said. I mean, you hit the nail on the coffin. But let's move on to our next topics that we're going to talk about, which are going to be our player analysis that we did. We picked 2 players that we have here. One's a veteran, one's a rookie that we're going to talk about. Sean, I'm going to let you go first with your veteran that you picked. You chose Chase Claypool here, and man, I am so excited to see the wide receiver room and the shoes that have been pretty much need to be filled. But you said it best earlier, and you said that these guys do not have to be Stephon Diggs. They don't have to be Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, or Gabe Davis. They just have to be themselves. And that's the biggest thing. But let's talk about Chase Claypool here, and let's mention a little bit about him and have a little bit of a get to know you on what Claypool is going to bring to the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. Well, you see, he's still young, only 25 years old, 6'4", 238. He's probably in the 240s, honestly. And man, he's just the best kind of combination of speed, size, athleticism, and physicality. As you wrote here, he's tough, strong hands. You got that great speed, big body wide receiver. You need all that. And people forget how good he was in his first 2 years because they only look at what he did the last couple of years. And, I don't like to be that person because our community does it all the time and says, oh, well, Curtis Samuel only had bad quarterbacks, so now he's going to be a 1,500-yard receiver and get 20 touchdowns and be a top weapon in the NFL because he has Josh Allen. I don't agree with that. I always think if you're a good wide receiver, you could be good, but in his case, he mentally wasn't in it. He didn't want to be where he was. He felt like he was wronged, and his heart wasn't in it. And because of that, his play dipped, and he didn't perform. Because if you're telling me he could go from 60-plus catches, over 1,000 total yards and 10 touchdowns with an aging Big Ben, and then goes from 8 to 8 catches and 70 yards with Tua and Justin Fields,
right?
That's just not. It's just not indicative of the kind of player he is. So imagine if a 6'4", speedy, physical guy who accounted for 10 touchdowns as a rookie and about close to 1,000 total yards, who can run the ball out of the backfield just like Curtis Samuel, who can block, who now has a new outlook on the NFL. Okay, this is my final chance. I'm on a team that could possibly be good, that could possibly compete if a guy like me can step up. Because imagine if, we'll just say Samuel does what he normally does, 800-ish, 600 to 800 receiving yards, and then Dalton Kincaid gets 1,000, we'll say 1,300 yards because that's what Jake's got him going at. And then Dawson Knox gets 400 yards, James Cook gets 500 yards out of the backfield, and a Claypool could get 800 and 900 yards and, 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns. This offense could be even better than what people are talking about because they're ignoring a guy like Claypool, saying he's probably not going to make the team. He might not. I'm not saying he's going to make the team, but this is if we get sophomore or rookie year Claypool this year, I'm not saying it's going to replace Stephon Diggs, but we're not really looking to replace him as a player, but you're trying to replace the production of the player, which the year the Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill, they used McKinnon, who had 15 touchdowns receiving or something crazy, 12 touchdowns receiving. They used him to replace Tyreek Hill's production, not the same player, but that's what they did. So if Claypool can come in there, get 5 to 8 touchdowns, 800 to 1,000 yards, which is still possible, not saying he's going to do it, but it's in him because we've seen him do it. Because, people always bring up, he never had, Samuel never had a great quarterback, and this guy never had a great quarterback. Let's say the same stuff about Claypool. He had an old Big Ben who could hardly move in the pocket. Now he's got Josh Allen, right? And that's what everybody wants to say. Oh, Samuel's going to be better because of Allen. Why can't Claypool?
That's true.
Got a different attitude now. I'm just excited for him, man. I mean, you can read all the cons, but I'm not even concerned about those because this guy's on a mission. He's motivated. Of course, if he's dropping the football, you don't like to see that. And if he's not putting an effort trying to turn up field, that's stuff that can be changed. And, I think, and I truly believe Yak is on the quarterback 100% because, Josh is only at the bottom of the league in Yak, but we got to remember why. Maybe it's the way he's throwing the ball. Maybe because he waits till the last second to fit the ball in. The receivers don't have the right timing to turn up field. They just catch the ball and go down. Or when he throws a deep ball, the receivers aren't great at separating, so as soon as they catch it, they get tackled. So we have to remember that Yak isn't 100% only on the receivers because they all can make plays. They're all fast. They're all physical. They're all, have great agility. They can break ankles. So maybe it's just how the quarterback is throwing the football. So we'll see if Allen can improve on his, leading the receiver and throwing the football this year. But, man, I'm excited for Chase Claypool. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to make the team. But if he can make the team and he can produce like he did as a rookie and a sophomore, which is possible, man, this offense could be exciting.
You're very right, Sean. And you brought up good points. He doesn't need to replace number one in Stephon Diggs or Gabe Davis. What he does need to replace is Trent Sherfield in terms of being on special teams, which shows here. He loves being on special teams. He also is a good blocker, which is something that you talked about. Big physical guy. What he needs to replace is that, and he doesn't need the production necessarily, but if he can come in and get involved in the blocking scheme, then that's going to create plays for him to be out there on the field and be in situations where he can catch the ball. And we look at what Buffalo had last season in terms of the wide receiver room. Number one, Stephon Diggs had most of the catches out there in that wide receiver room.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis was so inconsistent in terms of what he had. You also add into the fact that Trent Sherfield, Deontay Hardy were major misses for the Bills last season. Now you have players that are out there in Keon Coleman, Curtis Samuel. you add in Marquez Valdez-Scantling, you add in Khalil Shakir, you add Chase Claypool to the mix. Now you have guys that can create some more consistency to that wide receiver room, where you might have games where, one player in terms of the group doesn't have the best game, but the production is there from every single player out there. So you're getting consistent yards from each of the guys that I'm mentioning, but it's a committee that's doing it, not necessarily one guy that's doing it. So that's where I think the position is an upgrade, is the group entirely is going to be much better.
Yeah, and to that point, I'm not saying this isn't a team that can be good offensively. There's just a lot of these guys like Shakir, like Claypool, like Coleman, like Samuel. Some of them have done stuff in the NFL, but they had to prove it this year with our team. So, they can be great, but we just got to see it on the field. That's why I'm not going to come out right away and say we're going to win 12 games. Offense is going to be top 5. But just like Mike said, you got, Shakir, Coleman, Samuel. Just look at those three. And then if Claypool can do what he did as a rookie and a sophomore, that's a very good core of receivers who can be 6 to 8, 900 receiving yard type players. 2 of those 4 can run the ball out of the backfield too. And a lot of them have great hands. So sure, They might struggle against Jalen Ramsey's or Sauce Gardner's, but if the offense is built in a way as to where it's not dependent on Keon Coleman beating Sauce Gardner for a rep, and you can look elsewhere, and the quarterback can be patient, and the quarterback doesn't throw the ball 70 yards downfield against the New York Jets 3 times in a row and get picked off all those times, then you can win the football games, whether they have the better corners to your receivers or not. But quickly before you go, they had to keep 6 minimum. There's no way they keep less than 6. Depending, they might value a receiver for the new kickoff rule over a running back,
right,
or another linebacker. We'll see, but they have to at least keep 6. But maybe someone will convince them to keep 7. But for me, it'd be Shakir, Coleman, Samuel, Hollins will be 4, Claypool will be 5, and
MVS out there too. Don't forget.
What's that?
MVS, Valdez.
Yeah. And then it'd be MVS, and then, like I said, really it's just the Coleman, Shakir, Samuel, and Hollins are locks. I would say MVS is close to 1, and then it's really just the rest of the receivers fighting for that 6th spot. But I guaranteed has to be 6.
Yeah, I think it's going to be either 6 or 7. I mean, like we talked about, go through the list. I mean, I'm going to go Samuel. You go Shakir, Mac Hollins, Coleman. Add into the fact that you have MVS, you have Claypool, you got Tyrell Shavers out there, Justin Shorter. I think one of them is going to compete for the final position. I think Buffalo keeps 7 wide receivers. I really do. But don't be surprised. I mean, 6 could be the answer there. And number 1, you also have the practice squad where you can add some of these guys to it. Justin Shorter didn't really have a good season last year because he was injured. So maybe Buffalo decides, hey, we're going to try and pull him onto the practice squad for 1 more year. But again, like we mentioned, the vulnerability that you have of risking a player with so much talent and seeing another team pick him up. We've seen so many late round picks overall for the Buffalo Bills in the past few seasons get picked up. Jack Anderson, you add into the fact that there was Isaiah Hodgins picked up by the Giants, both of them. And other players as well have been added from the Bills roster. And we have so much talent there that you risk losing some good players as well and turning them over to other teams. So, again, it's a risk-reward type situation. But let's move on to the next player that we're going to talk about. This time we're going to talk about a rookie in the situation. After we do get through the player analysis, we will have some videos that we will have, and I will have Sean go first with his videos. Then I will add mine into the mix as well. We'll break down both of the film study as well. But I do want to mention Cedric Van Pran, and this is one of those intriguing players that the Bills drafted, 5th-round pick overall by the Bills, two-time national champion, hopefully 2-time Super Bowl champion that he will be with the Buffalo Bills, but 2-time national champion at Georgia, carved the way for our running back in James Cook in those national championship games. Now, he played a ton in college. I do apologize. The offensive snaps that he did play is not correct. That number is from a different player. But in terms of offensive snaps, he was pretty much on the field quite often. Pro comparison to him is Luke Whippler, a player that we talked about so much in the draft process last season, getting picked up by the Cleveland Browns. 40 time of 5'2", 22 benches, as well as 31 3/8 arms, 6'4", 298 pounds. High football IQ that you're going to get from him. Athletic player with great lateral range. Leadership qualities, proficient in the run blocking, as you'll see in some of these videos I will show you. But the biggest thing that he brings to the table is he is what you want in a center for the Bills. Good, solid player that can come in and he can lead the way in the run game and create holes for Cook. Has experience with Cook as well, but also he can do a good job in the passing game as well. Now, he's a little bit raw in the passing game, but that's where Aaron Cromer comes into play, and he can get the most out of him. He needs to be less over-aggressive in situations, prone to balancing issues, but these are all areas that you can get better at. Missed tackles, in one video you'll see, and I'm telling you, Sean, I put it on there for you because I love you so much, and I know you're going to lose your mind when you see the play that he makes and how he created an opportunity for the defensive lineman to go after the quarterback in that situation. And I saved it for you on purpose because I wanted you to see it. And I was mind blown. I'm like, what is he doing? But he actually pull blocked, and the quarterback got the ball out of his hands quickly, and you saw him go downfield and block, and he made a big play. Now, that would have been a penalty in the NFL, but in college, it's a different story. So here we go, guys. Let's go into the first. I'll start with the player analysis film study of Chase Claypool, and I'm going to take out the slideshow here, but we'll go into the film study of Chase Claypool to begin with. And Sean, I want you to narrate this a little bit. You don't necessarily know what you're seeing here, but try and narrate this a little bit. You'll understand it. The first play, I will tell you, Big Ben's in the pocket throwing this pass. So let's see if you can narrate this one for us.
This is ancient, then. Throws a dart. Ooh, look at those hands. He extends his arms fully. Brings the pass in. That was a great catch, great throw. I love that. Play it one more time.
One more time. I'll let you do it. I'll let you watch it first, and then you can narrate it the second time.
That. Oh, that's a different.
Sorry. This is the play.
Yeah, good separation there too. That's a great play. And that was a young. I don't know if that was his rookie or sophomore year, but that's a young, newly drafted receiver making a play like that. So we could see a lot of that.
That's what we talked about when it comes to the Chase Claypool that you want to see. Mm-hmm. There's so much that's in play in terms of the ability to be elite. And all it is mental. I mean, man, we talk about this so much when we're off air. We talk about the generation that we have in terms of guys our age. I'm 27. Sean is right around my age. I won't say his age because I don't know if he wants me to. But, we're around the same age, and we talk about people and the work ethic that we have out there. And sometimes as a young athlete or as a young person, you don't understand what it takes to be great at what you do. And I think that that's one thing that he really struggled with is look at the talent that he had around him. I mean, the groups of players that he had were mediocre. And now you're playing on an elite team with Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid and all these good players that are around him. It's only going to elevate him to being a better player. And that's what I love about this situation. But let's go into the second video here, Sean. I'll let you watch it first, and then we'll go into it, and you can talk over it. So
Making me excited, dude.
Let's go over this one now.
I don't know who that corner is, but he got burned by a couple steps, and then he again good eye. Because one thing, a shout out to Color from the Fence Tailgate. I don't know if he's gonna watch this, but he always mentions good receiver looks at the ball into their hands, and their eyes are a good skill to have. You see him look the ball into his hands, secures it, pulls it in, runs for a touchdown. Man, you can get something like this from him. Like you see it on the film. Sure, there's low lights too, but you see his playmaking ability on film. So why can't he do that again?
Yeah,
like you said, it's mental. So if his mental is good, hey, this could be exciting.
It really can. I mean, that's the one thing I look at is the so much promise that you have, and we talk about. I don't want to use that other P word because we've been trying so hard not to say it, but I'm going to say it once. Potential for Chase Claypool is so high. So let's go into
changer for the team. I'm telling you.
Let's go into this last video, Sean. And this is the play against the New York Giants. And I want to talk about what Nate Burleson loves. Toe drag swag. Watch this play that Chase Claypool makes. We'll play it twice, guys. First time you'll see it is it's one of the best plays that I've seen from a wide receiver recently. And this is what Chase Claypool will bring. So imagine this inside Highmark Stadium.
And he knew the hit was coming too. That's
true. So let's play it again, Sean. And I want you to go over this play, okay? Show me what you see here.
Yeah. Well, again, he gets immediate separation. He knows the safety's there. He still focuses on the ball. He looks the ball in with the, eyes is important. Looks the ball in, secures it, braces for the hit, gets some toes down. It's an incredible play. That's a real incredible play. So, man, that's what you could get out of this guy. And that's Josh Allen could throw the ball deep if you could separate like that. And Claypool wasn't looked at as like a wide receiver 3 when he was in. He was automatically people had a game plan for him. So
yeah,
I'm just telling you, man. Like everyone's hyped up about Shakir and Coleman and Samuel, but this guy balls out like he used to. He can quickly be the best receiver on your team. And when you look at their careers, all of them, Claypool's had the most productive season out of any of our ball catchers on our team. And I'm not saying he's better than anyone else, but as far as pick their best season, Claypool's had a better season in his career than anybody else on our wide receiver room in their career. So if he can give you that, Shakir gives you 800 to 1,000. Samuel gets you 800 to 1,000. Coleman gives you 500 to 700. You're doing pretty good.
Yeah, that's
very could even be better than that. We don't know. That's the thing about this team now. It's nobody really knows. You could say, oh, this team's going to be the best version of themselves. This team's going to be bad. This team's going to be this. But until this group of players on our team actually play in games, we don't know. The content creators, nobody knows. So, keep an open mind. But I'm right here right now. I'm not going to be one way or the other way. I see the potential. I also see how it can be bad, but I see how it can be great. And it could even be the best version of this offense. But again, they got to come out and show it. If week 1 they just suck, I'm not going to say, oh, that's it. But
right,
like a 6-week sample size, we might know by then.
Well, what it comes down to for me for Chase Claypool is it's the ability to mentally understand the game of football. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs. There's going to be games where you're not going to be the focal point in the offense. There's going to be games that you are the focal point. And if he just gets what it takes to be an NFL receiver, making blocks, making big plays, and not necessarily being the superstar that he has to be, which is exactly what he needs to do in Buffalo. If he understands how to play this role correctly, he's going to make a lot of money in his next contract next season because he's got on a 1-year deal. He's only on this deal for $1 million. If he does all these things correctly, I'm telling you, the ceiling that he will have in terms of his salary in the NFL next season will be incredible. He could be making $10-15 million next season on a lucrative 4-year, 5-year contract because he's so young. Yeah. But all it takes is his ability to just understand the role that he has to play and understand the mental side of the game, because that's what took him out of the game when it was with the Steelers, when it was with the Bears, and when it came down to being with the Miami Dolphins. That's why Chase Claypool is not the player that he was. We've seen it so often, and I'm going to say this from a athletic perspective. I've been a coach. I understand it. So many good players that come in and are the best. You think that they're going to be great. They're going to have so much opportunities, and they come into the game and they just are not right mentally. And that's what takes them out. You look at all across the board. I'm going to go with in terms of tennis. Okay. I look at guys that had so much opportunity. Nick Kyrgios, opportunity. Mentally couldn't get through. You look at John McEnroe, opportunities. Mentally could not get it through. You look at other people as well. I mean, they just don't understand it. And that's what it comes down to is, can he understand mentally how to get the game? And that's what we have to figure out from him. And if he does, so much ceiling. And what you saw in the videos is exactly what you could get out of Chase Claypool. Mm-hmm. So, Sean, I'm going to turn it over to Cedric Van Pran. And as you saw in the comments here, you saw from Bills Fan CA saying, here we go, Van Pran. This guy is a beast, and I feel much better that we have him. And this is where it came down to Mitch Morse. And losing Mitch Morse and now having Connor McGovern switch over to the center position. If this guy balls out in training camp, we could move Connor McGovern back to the left guard position. And that's what I'm hoping for, is that Van Pran shows up, shows out, and shows exactly what he needs to do to be the center for the Buffalo Bills. So let's go over some of these films that we have, 4 to be exact, that we have here. First one
that everybody should be hoping for too, Brett, is that McGovern goes back to left guard and then Van Pran starting center. But we'll see. That's what you should be hoping for, though.
But watch the athleticism. This is something that you didn't see necessarily from Mitch Morse. Now, Mitch was good at creating opportunities, but he wasn't nearly as athletic as Van Pran. Watch and see what he does on these plays. So this first play here, you're looking at number 63. Look at the blocking ability. You're going to see him pretty much knock
the second level.
Yeah, he knocked him down on the field there. But that's what you're going to see from Van Pran, is just the blocking ability that he has here.
Play the second play again. Don't just play it once. You got to let him see it again.
I'll let you see it again. But 63 here coming in, making this tackle or this block right there. It reminds me so much of that scene in The Blind Side. And now that was scripted and everything, but he pretty much took that boy to town. I'm just going to say, it's time for him to hit the buses. That's what the saying is. So that's what I see from Van Pran. Now, the second video that you're seeing, this again is downfield blocking. Just check out what he does on this play. 63 right in the middle of your screen here. Look at that block right there. Now, it's not the clearest block, but let's show it again. I love this block right here on number 33. He's got about 150 pounds on him. Now, that boy needs to eat some – 33 needs to eat some cheeseburgers and bulk up a little bit more, hit the weight room a little bit more. But
that'll be Jordan Poyer when he tries to climb down the box to make a tackle, or Jalen Ramsey.
Exactly.
I love that. No matter how small you are, you're getting away, you're going to get flattened. So play that one more time. Another time.
One more time, I'll play it. Watch this block right here. And look at who he's blocking for. Number 4 on the team is our running back in James Cook. And now he didn't get a lot of yardage there, but I think that Cook missed a little bit of a lead block there, and he could have bounced that outside instead of going inside in that situation. but Van Pran got the block right there, and that is incredible.
Real quick, though, to pull up Mike's comment real quick. He said Van Pran will have to really show out to surpass McGovern. Not saying he won't, but it's still going to be good to have him in the event we need to make a change. Yeah. I'm going to argue I think Van Pran's at the advantage because McGovern hasn't played center that often.
That's true.
Van Pran's been playing center for the last 4 years for sure, probably even more so. McGovern's been playing guard the last 4 years. So McGovern might, again, I said this to Mike before, McGovern might like to play center more than guard. McGovern might feel more comfortable at center than guard, but every coach he's had has put him at guard, and last year he had his best year as a professional. So yeah, I think Van Pran has a really good advantage because you see it. You know he's got the athleticism, he's got the IQ, he's got the physicality, he's got the ability to go to the second level. He's able to pull better than Mitch Morris has done. Definitely probably pull better than McGovern does, but not that McGovern's bad at it, but I still think Van Pran's a little bit more physical and athletic than he is. But and everyone says I'm not a coach whenever I bring it up, but you cannot convince me that you draft this guy to be a backup his entire career as a Buffalo Bill, because McGovern's going to be here for the long term, you hope, right? You literally can't convince me that they're going to draft this guy and not give him a fair shot. And if Van Pran is good, that you're not going to move McGovern back to left guard, because it doesn't make sense that Deion plays next to his 8th guard in his career, in his 8th year in the NFL, when they both performed the best they ever performed in the NFL next to each other. Then you got Brown and Torrance, who also played really well next to each other, who need to repeat it. You're not going to switch that up just because Connor McGovern likes to play center. That's not how it works. So,
and don't forget something else, though, Sean, and this is something that we haven't even talked about. You have Van Pran on your team, but you also have Will Clapp, and I know a lot of people don't know about him, but I'm telling you, his pass blocking ability has been pretty good. He has, I think in the past 4 years, 1 sack against him, 0 penalties throughout his time playing. Now, he played for the LA Chargers. He also played for the Saints. You say that he does stink, but you know what? You know, he might have an opportunity there if he shows up and shows out. That's the thing. And, you can have somebody else out there.
Right. Again, if McGovern plays guard and Edwards is a backup to him, you still have Alec Anderson, who's a center. You still have Will Clapp, who's a center. Again, I'd rather put Alec Anderson above Will Clapp, but you still got 3 people that can play center. And then if Van Pran has a little bit of rookie struggle, good, because that's how he's going to become the best version of himself as a future center for the Buffalo Bills. If you're just protecting him and you're afraid to put him out in the battlefield, he's never going to be battle ready and battle tested. So if you got 4 out of the 5 starters from last year in the same spot, the chances of you being better are increased, rather than putting a new left guard, a new center, hoping that those combinations work out, and then hoping that these people repeat their year of last year. Because David Edwards was great as a heavy package lineman, but the last time he was a starter, he wasn't that good anymore. And plus, we picked him up as a backup. And you're telling me out of all the teams last year in the NFL that complained about we have bad guards, we have no offensive linemen, we have no depth, and none of those teams would have picked him up to be a starter. The Dolphins needed guards last year before the season started. Why didn't they offer him a contract? But they didn't. So there was a reason that we picked him up when we did, and he was a backup for our team. So I'm going to say I see Van Pran being a starting center, and McGovern goes back to left guard, and this offensive line will continue to impress and continue to be one of the best offensive lines in the league. But it might not happen, but that's where I'm going to say, and that's what I believe should and could happen. And honestly, I really think that it's just fluff right now, where everyone's assuming that McGovern's going to be center. Because like I said, it just can't make – I don't care if I'm an offensive line coach or not. It makes more sense to replace 1 position than 2, and that's just easy math. 1 is better than 2. So I don't care who it is. So continue the Van Pran videos. It's about the team.
Yeah, I want to get into something real quick because we do have somebody that is a new subscriber officially, Don C, coming into the chat. Thank you so much for watching, Don. And he's a Ravens fan, but loves football, pretty much checking out the live stream. Really appreciate you for watching. Says that if the Chiefs don't win the championship, he becomes a Bills fan. Your people in city deserve a championship. Keep grinding, guys. Great stream. Really appreciate you for watching. He also said that he apologizes about his spelling, but we understand what you're saying, man. You're one of us, just like always. Can't find his glasses. I definitely liked and subscribed, boys. Also, check out Go Bills podcast and Red, White, and I said Ruthless, but Red, White, and Bills is actually what I meant to say there on the show. But check them out, both of us out on YouTube. Subscribe to us as well. All you have to do is go on Nickel City Mafia. You'll see awesome channels on there. Click on that. You can see Go Bills Podcast, Red, White, and Bills. So many other great channels that we collaborate with as well. We got Tommy from Mafia Sports Report as well. Check out all these channels that we are on. Click the like, subscribe button, and check them out as well. But Sean, I'm going to get back into the Van Pran videos. We have 2 more videos that we will have here. This is another video where Van Pran is lead blocking for James Cook. And check out the blocking ability here. I'm going to play it twice again on this play. But check out the lead blocking, 63 coming in right here, lead blocking there on that play.
Typical James Cook, not seeing the holes in time and not turning up. But,
yep,
man, that guy can part the Red Sea.
I'm going to play it one more time so you can see it. And just watch James Cook on this play. Should have went inside, cut back to be able to get a touchdown there. I mean, look at the whole entire left side of the line, or pretty much the whole entire line, lead blocking for him. All he had to do is cut it to the right, and he would have probably had a touchdown in that play there as well. Last play that I'm going to show from Van Pran this time, I just want to show you, this is the passing play. Sean, I saved the best for last for you. This is the play that you will see. Watch him block on this play. And I want to hear how irate you are going to get on this play.
Mad. Okay.
You're going to be mad. Check this out. Check out the blocking right here on that play. As you see it. Watch again, but watch the blocking right there. The blocking from him. Now, the quarterback,
I hate that.
They got the ball out quickly. Don't get me wrong. I'm going to play it one more time so you can see it. Look at that block. That's a passing play. Now, he does come upfield and makes a good play right here for the lead block, getting a few extra yards on this play for his wide receiver. But, I mean, I'm telling you.
I'll give him a break. That's a screenplay. That's
a screenplay. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying right now, if that's any other quarterback that doesn't understand that that's a screenplay, that quarterback is dead. I mean, if Aaron Donald comes in there, I'm just saying a little bit more athletic defensive lineman, the quarterback might have been dead on the field. I mean, I'm just going to say that. Bills fan CA coming into the chat saying, I feel like McGovern has been given the keys by the Bills. He's been primed to take over for Mitch and stays he is comfortable at center. So Van Pran is going to have to drive the car faster. That's very true.
I love it, Mike, but you said it in the first part of your sentence. Pull it back up one more time. In the first part of your sentence, you said he's been given the keys. He hasn't earned them, nor does he deserve them yet. So just like Van Pran, they both, I feel, equally have to earn those keys to that nice fast car because he didn't earn it. He hasn't shown in a game that he can be a better center, or even in a practice setting that he could be a better center. And I get what you're saying, though. He's making it seem like that was the whole plan to begin with. But again, if that was the whole plan to begin with, why didn't you just get rid of Mitch Morse previously and then had a different guard in there from the beginning, and you would have saved even more money? But I just feel like it's all part of the plan. Like the year when we got Torrance, you got people like Cover One and everyone else saying, "Oh, Torrance has been horrible in camp. Bates is going to be the starting guard no matter what." And then when I called them out on it and said, "No, that's not what I heard. That's not even true," they say, "Oh, you're an idiot. You're not even here." So whatever. But guess who ended up winning the job and starting? It was Torrance. And I just feel like it's part of their keeping things under wrap, kind of being mysterious about it. So, and I'm not even saying McGovern isn't going to be a good center. I think he could be a great center, but it's just why now? And I was telling Jake yesterday, if McGovern was Roger Saffold bad at left guard last year, and you wanted to switch him to center, I would have been like, hell yeah, let's just do that because he might be even better. But because McGovern was so damn good last year, I'm just really struggling to figure out why they're so eager to move him.
Yeah,
because again, Van Pran, he could be really one of the top centers in the league, possibly. He has that potential in him. And then again, McGovern and Dawkins next to each other, man, they were awesome. So
I'm going to throw something out there.
I'm just struggling why the coaching staff would even want to attempt to try that. But
I want to throw something out there real quick, Sean. Now, this necessarily will screw up the whole entire offensive line, but I'm just throwing it up real quick, okay? Imagine this line come week 1, okay? You have Deion Dawkins, Osiris Torrance at left guard. You add in Connor McGovern at center, David Edwards at right guard, and then you have Spencer Brown.
Why?
Okay? I know it sucks, okay? But that puts Josh Allen's blind side locked out. Okay?
Yeah,
I'm
but
more worried.
never played left guard.
I know.
That's the only thing. And but I see what you're saying. I just don't think Torrance ever even played left guard in college, so I wouldn't want to test that now. Especially because you're so good at right guard.
Would you test it in training
camp? A lot
camp?
of people, like, I'm not saying anyone's like a casual fan or I know more because I don't, but sometimes people assume, I'm not saying you, but people that might be casually watching football, they only tune into the games, they don't really pay attention like that. They might think, oh, if you play right tackle, you can play left tackle. If you play right guard, you can play left guard. But honestly, that's not true. Sometimes people can, but you could be an amazing right tackle and just be absolute dog shit at left tackle. So again, with Van Pran, Mike mentions Van Pran maybe could play Edwards' position at guard, maybe, but his draft profile was at the NFL level, he's only a center. He will never be NFL level caliber at guard. So if they want to try to ruin him and put him there, like they did with Cody Ford, maybe. But I just think, and people are wrong in draft profiles too. So maybe he could play guard. But in that situation, I think still Van Pran at center and McGovern at guard would be better than Van Pran at left guard and McGovern at center, because I just think even if Van Pran struggles a little bit, if those four can play like they did last year and maybe even do better than that, it's going to mask that. And then by the time year 2 rolls around for Van Pran, that starting 5 is going to be locked up for the next 4 or 5 years, and he'll be ready to go. So I want him to be in that position. Well, obviously I want him to earn it, but I'm not worried about if he starts and makes a couple mistakes. I think you need that. You need to do that to be better and better in the NFL, because the only way to learn is through failure. So if he makes a mistake, if he goes against Quinnen Williams and gets burned and Josh Allen gets sacked and we're out of field goal range, he's going to learn from that because he's got a high IQ as well. And again, one of the most important skills for a center. But we'll see. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm just saying what makes sense to me is only fix one position instead of 2. And because they were so good, if McGovern was bad, I agree. Maybe try him at center if that's where he feels more comfortable. But he did great.
Yeah. And Mike from Bills Fan CA here says, also, Josh Allen can mask any holes in the offensive line until the line starts to gel more. So I could see this happening. And that's very true. I look at this, number 1. You add a guy that has familiarity with James Cook and how he plays in Van Pran. You also add into this that a more athletic side that Aaron Cromer really wants to run. That's another thing that we talk about. Cromer likes athletic, physical guys as well. So that's other areas here.
Yeah,
But pretty much that's what I like about it. And this is a team that we have so much opportunity to see what gels, and that's the thing. But real quick, this is my last point that I'm going to say here is, I love the conversation that we were having with the chat as well. And if you're watching this afterwards, let us know in the comments below who you think is going to be the center for the Buffalo Bills come after training camp, and who you think is going to be the starter week 1. Now, the Bills could make a change mid-season. That could happen too. Who do you think is going to be the starting center come week 1? And who do you think at the end of the season is going to be the center as well? Let us know in the comments below.
I will say two last thing before, so we can wrap up with the last things we got to say. But David Edwards isn't going to be part of this future. Yeah. I really don't think so, and I think the Bills know that too. So that's why another part of me is thinking like they're not gonna put him there for 1 year. I know it's a 2-year deal, but they're not gonna put him there for 1 year and then replace him. Like that's just too much shifting. You finally figured it the hell out after you're here for this is your 8th year now. You finally figured out the offensive line besides Deion Dawkins. Finally, so you're not just gonna throw him there and then replace him next year and then do all this, moving around. And it's just a safer bet. It's just a safer bet to put what worked last year and then replace Mitch Morse with a younger, more physical, more higher ceiling type player. But I'm going to say that till I'm blue in the face, and you're going to see camp roll around, and then all these people, all these other channels that are there, they're going to say, "Oh, Van Pran, he took the backup snaps and he struggled on this one block."
Yeah,
everyone's going to struggle. Everybody misses blocks. Everybody loses reps. Like that's one misconception that our community has on offensive line is that you have to be 100 for 100 on every game. You can never miss one block. You can't whiff once. You can't miscommunicate once. You have to be 100% perfect every time, and it's just not realistic. So you look at, Dawkins gave up 2 pressures. He was horrible. No, he wasn't, because he blocked 50 snaps and successfully 48 of them. So that's just you're gonna hear all that crap when camp goes around. But yeah, awesome topics for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna add one last thing to this is when it comes down to training camp and it comes down to the regular season, injuries happen quite quickly. Mm-hmm. And I said that on purpose, the way that I said that. Injuries will happen in the NFL. And when you have young guys that have very little experience at the NFL level, you have to get them repetition in training camp early and often in terms of who they're going to be lined up next to. Now, Van Pran might be in the second line, but he has to have opportunities to play in the first line, because what happens when, let's say, Connor McGovern goes down? Who's going to be the next man up? It's just like when it comes to the police, okay? When you have that first guy in line, the second guy is just as important because he has the other person's back. Yeah. Okay. And when you're the first guy into a situation when there's a shooter or you're going into a crime scene and there's somebody that's in there that you have to save, the next guy in line is saving your butt, and he's also the person that if you get taken out, next in line. Okay? It's so important that you give opportunities to Van Pran and you give opportunities to Will Clapp, you give opportunities to all the guys on the offensive line to become the first team. And in training camp, I can't wait to see this. You're going to see opportunities for Van Pran in the first team. You're going to see opportunities for Will Clapp. The amount of players that are going to be intertwined is going to be incredible. I do want to get to the comments real quick.
I got one more thing before I lose it, after you're done with the comments.
Yep. Do you have Bill's Bunker coming into the chat? Aloha Mafia. Appreciate you for tuning in, as well as Bills Fan CA coming in saying, I really don't enjoy camp because I have to take the word from the beat writers who aren't watching everyone. True, Sean. That's very much what you see there. And it's hard to get film in terms of what is going on at training camp as well. because you have guys like Nick Wright and you have guys like all these biased, I should say, media influencers who like to twist things. And it's so hard. I don't want to get into this topic very much.
That's right.
The way that they twist it, the story of what's happening.
Yep, and that's what our guys do. They'll just pick a story, run with it, and try to. But most people will believe it because they have no choice to. But the last thing I wanted to say real quick, just because I'm going to forget it. We could have a lacking receiving core, right? There's a possibility of that. But if you heighten the other positions, like if your offensive line gets better, if your running backs get better, if your tight ends get better, it kind of levels out a little bit, and it might not be as big of a deal as it might seem. So, again, thinking, I'll say rationally about it, if you got 4 to 5 original starters from last year who all did really well, give them the same opportunity to do just as well, if not better, and then maybe you could even be better with Van Pran right off the gate. You never know, because he should have been a first, second-round pick, but his short arms kind of pushed people away. He was still the third-rated center in the draft. So he could come right out and be just like the guy from the Chiefs that was an all-pro his first year, Creed Humphrey. That could be possible. That could really be possible. So
and this was
that can make you even better, and then your receivers don't have to be Stephon Diggs because your offensive line is even better than it was last year, and then that can work out in that way. So,
and this wasn't a deep draft when it comes to the center position. I mean, it was very, very light, I'm going to say. But, I mean, Van Pran had a good career in college. It's going to be exciting to see what he can do. One thing I do want to add to the chat real quick is exactly what Bills Fan CA says here. Unless you go to camp, you don't know what you're seeing out there. And this is the last point that I'm going to make is that if you're at camp and you're there live, take photos, take videos and everything, send them over to Nickel City Mafia, as well as Go Bills podcast. Let us know, photos of you guys at camp. We'll feature it on our channel as well. And we can't wait to see those videos as well. I mean, we get excited when it comes to camp time. So, but Sean, I appreciate you, man, for being on the show. And the last topic that we didn't talk about is the drought video. Tomorrow, we're going to try and save a little bit of time. We're going to come up with a little bit of a short for Nickel City Mafia, or maybe we'll put it on one of our channels as well, because we haven't really done videos on our channels either. So we'll have a video dropping tomorrow and talk about the combination of players that made the drought so exciting, and some of the greatest combination of players that were out there too. And we'll also come up with some combination of players that we wish we would have seen, guys that we didn't see together too. So that'll be exciting. But Sean, really appreciate you for being on here, man. It's been a while. Missed you, bud. One thing I do want to add, last thing that I didn't mention, is Jake Podger, man, behind the scenes, going through absolute struggles with his family and everything. And the birth of his baby boy came out. And one thing I do want to add, his baby was in the NICU in Buffalo, and it's super exciting. And maybe I'm jumping the gun. I apologize, Jake and family and everything. I apologize for mentioning this if I am jumping the gun, but I want to say how excited I am to see them reunited with their family and being together and finally having Sullivan home. I'm excited for their family as well. And, it's exciting to see there too. So great to see them back together. And we wish all the best to the Padre family, and can't wait to see Jake back on the show in a few more weeks to come. So, but don't forget to like, subscribe, follow us on social media. You can find Nickel City Mafia on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, as well as a few other sites. You can find Sean on Instagram and on YouTube, and you can also find myself on so many different social media platforms, but mostly Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube as well. But this has been Red, White, and Ruthless. We will see you next week for our usual show at 8:30 p.m. We will be back at that time for good. For myself and Sean, as always, we say, go Bills.
Go Bills.